The throbbing started again, a deep, persistent ache that had become an unwelcome rhythm in his life since the accident. Leo found himself back in the campus health clinic, the sterile scent of antiseptic clinging to the air. He tried to explain it to the doctor, a man whose weary eyes had seen countless cases of mono and sprained ankles. He reported that there were no lingering effects from the crash, at least none the scans could find. Leo, gripping the edge of the examination table, insisted there was something wrong. He described a strange heat that built inside him every night, a feverish sensation that made his whole body feel restless and raw. The doctor's brow furrowed, his expression shifting from professional concern to something less definable. He clarified that this peculiar warmth appeared only after dark. Leo nodded eagerly, desperate for a diagnosis. The doctor then inquired if the discomfort was diffuse or if it originated from a single point, radiating outward. Leo paused, tracing the memory of the feeling through his body. The source of the nightly torment, he admitted with a flush of embarrassment, seemed to be centered low on his backside. The doctor's eyes widened slightly. He mumbled something Leo couldn't quite catch, a phrase about the body remembering what the mind forgets. Leo, confused, asked what he meant, but the doctor just shook his head and said he would get him something for it. He returned with a small tube of ointment, instructing Leo to apply it whenever the discomfort flared up. That evening, as the familiar heat began its slow burn, Leo grabbed the tube and headed for the bathroom, cursing under his breath. His roommate, Mike, looked up from his laptop. He asked Leo what was up with him lately, with all the nightly trips to the bathroom. Leo froze, feeling a prickle of caution. Since the crash had wiped his memory clean, everyone was a stranger. Even in this dorm room, his home for 2 years, he felt like an intruder. From what he'd gathered, Mike was a good guy, but his voice carried. If Leo mentioned his specific problem, he imagined the entire building would know by morning. He claimed the doctor had just told him to stay hydrated, and the frequent bathroom runs were a result of that. He apologized if he was being disruptive. Mike waved it off, saying it was no big deal. He told Leo that if anything was seriously wrong, he should talk to them, and if he felt awkward about it, he should talk to Caleb. Mike's gaze drifted to the curtained-off bunk across the room. Just as he said Caleb's name, Leo's pulse quickened, and the ache intensified. He spun around and rushed into the bathroom. Inside, a new problem presented itself. With one arm in a plaster cast, he realized he couldn't apply the ointment himself. He could barely unfasten his sweatpants. The thought of asking Mike for help was mortifying. He couldn't bear the idea of becoming the butt of a joke before he even knew who he was. He twisted and contorted his body, trying every conceivable angle, but it was useless. Defeated, he gave up. As he pulled open the bathroom door, he came face to face with Caleb. In the 2 weeks since he'd been back from the hospital, this was only the 3rd time he'd seen his other roommate. Caleb seemed to move through their shared space like a ghost, his presence fleeting. Felt as if he were actively avoiding Leo, or maybe he just disliked him. Mike had insisted that Caleb was just distant with everyone, but that he was different with Leo. Whenever Leo pressed for details, however, Mike would clam up. Despite the confusion, Leo felt an inexplicable sense of trust toward Caleb. He couldn't explain it, but he believed in him completely. Caleb stood a full head taller than him, looking down at Leo before his gaze shifted to the full moon hanging in the dark window. His voice was low when he asked if Leo wasn't feeling well. Leo nodded, the words caught in his throat. Before he could speak, Caleb pulled him back into the bathroom. With practiced ease, Caleb undid the drawstring on Leo's sweatpants and tugged them down. Then, to Leo's shock, he started to unbuckle his own jeans. Caleb turned Leo to face the tiled wall, his arm wrapping around Leo's waist from behind, pulling him close. Leo's eyes went wide. He couldn't comprehend what was happening, what Caleb intended to do. As his mind raced, a sudden understanding dawned, and he shoved Caleb away just as he felt a shift in the man's posture. He thrust the tube of ointment he was still clutching into Caleb's hand. He stammered that the doctor said this stuff was good. Caleb froze, his ears glowing red in the dim light. A look of profound hurt crossed his face. The ointment was cool against Leo's skin, quickly soothing the internal fire. But as the minutes passed, Caleb's expression grew more strained. The 2-minute task seemed to take an eternity. When it was over, he looked as if he'd been steamed, his skin flushed and slick with sweat. Leo hastily pulled up his pants, mumbled a thank you with his back turned, and fled the bathroom. He was already in his bunk when Caleb finally emerged. The sound of running water had been relentless. Leo peeked through a gap in his curtain and saw Caleb standing by the sink on their balcony. His long, pale hands now an alarming shade of red, water dripping from the fingertips. Caleb walked to his own bunk, shot a brief, irritated glance in Leo's direction, and climbed in. So he'd spent all that time in the bathroom just washing his hands. He was that repulsed by touching him. The thought of such a severe fixation on cleanliness made Leo sigh. He resolved to figure out how to apply the cream on his own tomorrow. That night, his sleep was filled with a long, vivid dream. He relived his first 2 encounters with Caleb after the accident, but this time, he saw details he'd previously missed. He saw that Caleb's distance wasn't disdain. It was something else entirely. The first meeting was in the hospital. As Leo's consciousness returned, the first thing he saw was Caleb slumped over in a chair by his bed, looking utterly exhausted. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. But the moment Caleb saw him awake, the fatigue vanished, replaced by a surge of frantic excitement. Caleb pulled him into a fierce hug, his sharp chin digging into Leo's shoulder. After a moment, Leo felt a subtle tremor run through Caleb's body. He was crying. But Leo, his mind a blank slate, didn't even know his name. Confused, he pushed Caleb away. Staring into Caleb's raw, bloodshot eyes, he quietly asked who he was. Caleb's mouth opened, his throat working, but before he could answer, the door swung open. A middle-aged couple rushed in, their eyes wet with tears, claiming to be his parents. Logically, faced with blood relatives and a strange man, one would gravitate toward family. Yet Leo found himself instinctively shrinking away from his parents, trying to position himself behind Caleb. Caleb never told him his name that day. He was ushered out by Leo's parents, and Leo didn't see him again for the entire month he was hospitalized. He had asked his parents why Caleb, who seemed to care so much, never came back to visit. They told him it wasn't care, it was guilt. They explained that Caleb was responsible for the car accident. His conscience was eating at him, which was why he had been taking care of Leo. Now that they were there, his presence was no longer required. His mother had told him they were only thinking of his safety. The amnesiac Leo, eager to please, accepted their explanation without question, though a part of him felt it wasn't the whole truth. He vaguely remembered a voice, during his coma, constantly whispering apologies. Perhaps that had been Caleb. The second meeting was the day of his discharge. He was in the car with his parents, heading back to the university. On the dashboard was a digital picture frame cycling through family photos. A smiling couple with 2 boys. He was surprised to see that the boy standing between his parents was not him. His parents explained that he had never liked having his picture taken, so they didn't force him. The boy was his twin brother. Leo asked where he was. It seemed strange that his own brother hadn't visited him once. At the mention of his brother, his parents' faces lit up with pride. A sudden, inexplicable wave of sadness washed over Leo, a tightness in his chest. His mother explained that his brother had a major physics competition next month and was at a training camp, unable to be distracted. After all, it wasn't a big deal. Leo was fine now. He nodded silently, but the feeling of a great injustice lingered. The first face that came to his mind was Caleb's. He asked his mother if he could see Caleb, saying he felt there was a misunderstanding between them. The car screeched to a halt. The picture frame on the dash toppled over. His parents turned around simultaneously, their faces grim. His father told him no, absolutely not. The doctor had said he couldn't handle any stress, and seeing Caleb might trigger bad memories. But a quiet thought surfaced. What if the bad memories were more connected to them? He didn't say it out loud. He couldn't believe his own parents would harm him. But he saw Caleb that day after all. When he walked into his dorm room, Caleb was there, packing a suitcase. The room was otherwise empty. Caleb methodically folded clothes and placed them inside. When his parents saw Caleb, their expressions turned wary. Caleb, in turn, seemed to grow defensive, his posture stiffening. Their conversation was clipped and hostile. His mother told Caleb that her son was finally normal again and that he shouldn't be around a pervert like Caleb, who would only hold him back from becoming as successful as his brother. Caleb's response was a cold laugh. He asked if being successful meant being worthy of being in the family photo. He wondered if they had ever asked Leo what he actually wanted. His parents told Leo to wait outside, but he could still hear Caleb's strained, hoarse voice. He scoffed at the word normal. He said that at least when Leo wasn't normal, he was happy. His mother's voice rose, questioning how anyone could be happy with another man. Leo didn't understand what she meant. Hearing them argue, he pushed the door open again. He saw Caleb holding a framed photo, about to place it in his suitcase. Leo snatched it from him. He stared at the picture. It was him and Caleb. Caleb's arm was slung over his shoulder, and Leo's head was tilted naturally toward him. Leo was smiling at the camera, but Caleb was looking at Leo. They both looked incredibly happy. He turned to his mother, confused, and reminded her that she'd said he hated pictures. He felt increasingly lost, as if his life post-amnesia was shrouded in a fog where nothing was as it seemed. His mother ripped the frame from his hands and smashed it on the floor. It shattered into pieces. Caleb's eyes flared with red-hot anger. Before he could react, Leo's father spoke up, announcing that Leo could go to art school in New York now to study graphic novels. That had always been his dream. Caleb's anger faltered. He looked at Leo, his eyes a mixture of tenderness and resignation. A sharp pain bloomed in Leo's chest. As Caleb dragged his suitcase past him, Leo's hand shot out, stopping him. 2 words escaped his lips without thought. "Don't go." He woke from the dream, the words still on his lips. He opened his eyes to see Caleb standing by his bed, his face etched with worry. The moment their eyes met, Caleb looked away and started to leave. Since the accident, Leo's memory had been unreliable, even for recent events. He remembered seeing Caleb a couple of times, but the details from the dream, the raw emotion, the shattered photo, had been lost to him until now. All he had retained was what his parents had drilled into him. Caleb caused the crash, and he remembered the fight in the dorm room. Yet, despite it all, he didn't resent him. He had suspected something was wrong, but it seemed like everyone was conspiring to keep him from the truth. Now, with the forgotten details flooding back, he was overwhelmed. His eyes welled with tears as he reached out and grabbed Caleb's arm. Caleb kept his back to him, refusing to look. A wave of anguish washed over Leo. He choked out the question, his voice trembling, asking if they had been a couple. Caleb denied it. He pulled his arm free and walked toward the door. But Leo saw the unmistakable glint of tears in his eyes. He scrambled down from his bunk, desperate for an answer, but his foot slipped on the ladder, and he tumbled to the floor. Hearing the thud, Caleb swore under his breath and rushed back. He knelt, his hands carefully checking Leo for injuries. Leo just stared at him, taking in the fine lines of his face, the strong jaw, the thick, curled lashes. His heart began to hammer against his ribs. The dorm room was silent except for the sound of their breathing. Once Caleb was satisfied Leo wasn't hurt, he looked up. In that moment of eye contact, a wild impulse seized Leo. He wanted to kiss him, and he did. He leaned forward and pressed his lips against Caleb's, who was completely unprepared. Caleb went rigid with shock. In that brief moment of stillness, Leo reached out and flattened his palm against Caleb's chest. He could feel the frantic, undeniable rhythm beneath his palm. Caleb's heart was racing. When Caleb finally recovered, he shoved Leo away and shot to his feet, turning to flee. But Leo was faster. He threw himself against the door, blocking the exit. He looked up at Caleb, his own heart pounding in his ears. He told him his heart was beating so fast. He said Caleb had to like him. He might have lost his memories, but his heart was still the same. He pressed his own hand to his chest, where a storm was raging. It felt like it only recognized Caleb. Caleb looked like a cornered animal. He bolted from the room and didn't return that night. His reaction only solidified Leo's belief that there was more to their story. In class, the professor's lecture was a meaningless drone. Leo's mind was consumed with thoughts of Caleb. He nudged Mike, who was engrossed in a game on his phone. He asked him what the real relationship between him and Caleb had been. Mike flinched, looking away. He mumbled that they were just roommates, what else could they be? His tone was casual, but his eyes avoided Leo's. Silently, Leo took out his phone, pulled up a photo he'd just taken of Mike playing the game, and held it over the send button in a message to their professor. He warned Mike that if he didn't tell him the truth, he would send it. Mike had warned him on the way to class that this particular professor was notoriously strict about students playing games in his lecture. Mike's hands flew up in surrender. He promised to talk. Leo put his phone away. After a moment of hesitation, Mike leaned in and whispered a few words. "Friends with benefits." That explained Caleb's initial reaction in the bathroom. He must have thought Leo's discomfort was of a different nature. That weekend, the dorm was empty. Caleb was still staying away, and Mike had gone home. Leo was supposed to go home too, but the thought filled him with a strange dread. He lied to his parents, saying he needed to stay on campus to study. On the phone, his mother sounded pleased. She said it was for the best, as his brother was coming home that night before his competition and Leo shouldn't be a distraction. After he hung up, a bitter, mocking laugh escaped his lips. He froze, wondering why he always felt this way whenever his parents mentioned his brother. He lay on his bunk, the words Mike had said replaying in his head. Was that all they were? He opened the photo gallery on his phone, searching for any trace of Caleb, but it was completely empty. That seemed wrong. He moved to his laptop. There, he found a folder titled Malice, protected by a password. He tried his own birthday, his name, nothing worked. A thought occurred to him. He sent a quick text to Mike, asking for Caleb's birthday. The reply came back, 09/27. 2004. He typed in the numbers, holding his breath. The folder unlocked. Inside were dozens of meticulously named files. He opened them in chronological order. What he found was by turns agonizing and exhilarating. The first file documented his initial sexual encounter with Caleb. There were journal entries, photos, even video clips. The words of his past self were chilling. He had written that he'd found something more effective than self-harm for releasing his negative emotions: being violently taken by Caleb. The pain was sharper than a razor blade, but the pleasure was immense. It allowed him to temporarily forget the constant torment and disapproval of his family. He wrote that in Caleb's arms, for the first time, he felt like he existed. In that bed, he was the only thing Caleb could touch, a singular entity not measured against his brother. It was an escape for his soul. The text made his chest ache, but the images sent a jolt through his nervous system, making every cell in his body hum with a dark excitement. The subsequent files were similar. Whenever he felt crushed by his parents' coldness, he would seek out Caleb, using him to reclaim his sense of self. The last file was different. It detailed the moment Caleb had confronted him about being used. He had thought he'd hidden it so well, just like the scars on his wrists. But Caleb had known from the beginning. He knew he was just a tool for Leo's emotional release, knew about his cowardice and his damage. And yet, Caleb had embraced it all. He had even told Leo that he loved him, that every time was consensual on his part. He confessed he'd loved him from the moment he first saw him. Leo hadn't believed it. How could anyone love him when his own parents didn't? They had always told him he was worthless. The file contained no explicit material, only a single, stark screenshot of a text message from Caleb. It read, "Leo, even if it's just using me, even if you feel nothing for me, I'll take it. But I'm not something you can just throw away. If you're going to use me, then do it right. Use me for a lifetime. Call me when you've decided. I'll be waiting." Below it was a notification showing that Leo had retracted a message. He couldn't remember what he had written. He called Caleb. The phone rang twice before it was disconnected. He called again. This time it rang for a long while before Caleb answered. The moment the line connected, Leo started to cry. Caleb's voice, initially cold, softened instantly. He said Leo's name. As the sound of Caleb's voice filled his ear, a torrent of memories, sharp and fragmented, rushed into his mind. They pieced themselves together with breathtaking speed, forming a complete picture. He saw why he'd been in the car that day. It was after Caleb's confession. After a period of intense internal struggle, he had decided to go to him. The message he had sent and then retracted was, "Caleb, let's go to hell together." He knew his mental state was fragile. Caleb knew it too. He had thought Caleb must be just as broken to love a mess like him. He had deleted the message because he wanted to say it to his face. But he never made it. The crash. No wonder Caleb felt so responsible. Caleb said his name again. Leo sniffled and managed a quiet acknowledgement. He told Caleb he remembered everything. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end, then silence. Leo continued, his voice gaining strength. He asked if Caleb had truly intended to hide it forever if his memory had never returned. He asked if Caleb was really going to let him go back to being their puppet. He challenged him, asking what happened to his declarations of love, his promise to save him. He accused Caleb of abandoning him too. He knew Caleb had been suffering, but the sense of betrayal was overwhelming. He wasn't stupid even with amnesia. He knew who had truly been good to him. His parents' concern always came with strings attached. With his memory back, he understood. They were thrilled he had amnesia, It gave them a blank slate to mold him into their ideal son. Before, they wanted him to be a science prodigy like his brother. When he failed, they tore up his sketchbooks, tearing up his childhood along with them. His brother's talents were not his own, but they were born of the same parents, so his brother became the benchmark. His entire life was an exhausting, futile attempt to catch up. Recently, with the rise of the graphic novel industry, his parents had seen a new opportunity. Suddenly, they supported his art. The dream of studying in New York belonged to the 10-year-old Leo, not the 20-year-old one. He realized Caleb had kept silent because he knew it had once been Leo's dream, and he wanted Leo to have a chance to find that original part of himself again. He pressed Caleb further, reminding him of his promise to be used for a lifetime. He asked if he regretted it now, if he was trying to run away. And if he was, why had his first instinct in the bathroom been to undo Leo's pants? The old pattern was ingrained in his body. When he was in pain, he used to reach for a blade. After Caleb, he reached for him instead. The amnesia had wiped his mind, but his body remembered. The doctor was right. Caleb was a drug, and he was hopelessly addicted. Caleb remained silent. Panicked, Leo said fine, he would go to New York. And when he felt the urge to self-destruct, he'd just find someone else. Caleb's voice was a low growl, squeezed through gritted teeth. He dared him to try. Leo shot back a challenge and hung up. He checked the time, calculated how long it would take Caleb to get there from his family's house, and went to take a shower. He timed it perfectly. As he stepped out of the bathroom, a towel wrapped around his waist, Caleb was standing there, a bottle of lubricant in his hand. Before Leo could speak, Caleb pulled him into a crushing embrace. His hand tangled in Leo's hair, holding his head still as his mouth came down on his in a fierce, possessive kiss. The towel fell to the floor. Caleb lifted him effortlessly, slinging him over his shoulder. The heat of Caleb's skin was a final ultimatum. But Leo wasn't afraid. He craved this, reveled in it. The next morning, he could barely move. He spotted the tube of ointment on the floor and remembered a moment from the night before. At the height of their frenzy, as Leo cried out for him, Caleb had pulled the tube from under his pillow. In a perfect imitation of Leo's earlier timid voice, he'd whispered, "Use this. The doctor said it's good." Leo's face had burned with humiliation. Caleb had smirked, tilting his chin up. His smile was wicked. "Me or it?" he'd asked. Leo, both angry and aroused, had made his choice by leaning up and nipping Caleb's lower lip. "You, of course." Caleb stirred beside him, pulling him close. He rested his chin in the crook of Leo's neck, his soft hair tickling his skin. He murmured into Leo's ear that he would go to hell with him. The words were gravelly, but beautiful. So he had seen the retracted message after all. Leo turned, pressing his body against Caleb's, feeling their shared warmth, their hearts beating as one. He smiled. His parents found out he'd recovered his memory the next day when the art school called to confirm his withdrawal of the application. They ambushed him outside the fine arts building. His mother rushed toward him, her voice shrill, asking if he was insane. She demanded to know if he had any idea how much effort they'd put into securing his spot. Her tirade stopped abruptly, her eyes fixed on the constellation of dark bruises on his neck. Her brow furrowed. She looked from the marks to his cool, indifferent expression, and understanding dawned. Her face fell with disappointment. So she really hadn't wanted him to remember. He gave a short, bitter laugh and confirmed it. He was sorry to inform them that their puppet was no longer available. His father, enraged, slapped him across the face. He yelled that they had only ever done what was best for him. He recounted Leo's failures, his inability to grasp physics, his rejection of a perfectly suitable girlfriend from a good family, and his choice to get involved with a man. He asked why Leo couldn't be more like his brother. Leo turned his head to the side, the sting on his cheek fading into a cold numbness. He told his father to consider that slap payment for the gift of life. He turned to leave, the floodgates of memory opening. His twin. He loved comics. His brother loved physics. Their shared interest became physics. His art was a worthless distraction. He could never learn the formulas, could never match his brother's scores. Every point he fell short earned him a punishment. His parents would parade him in front of the neighborhood kids, declaring him a failure. Soon he had no friends. They said it was for his own good to help him focus. He became withdrawn, strange, and eventually the monster everyone saw. When he first arrived at college, no one would talk to him. Except Caleb. Caleb had found him one night after he'd cut himself, and asked if he wanted to try a different way to let it out. His father grabbed his arm, telling him they had already announced to everyone that their older son was going abroad to become a famous artist, and their younger son would be a world-renowned physicist. His mother hissed a threat in his ear. If he didn't cooperate, she would expose him and Caleb. She knew he didn't care about his own reputation, but what about Caleb's family? Could Caleb really abandon his entire life for him? His blood ran cold. He was about to surrender when Caleb appeared. He pushed through the small crowd of onlookers and pulled Leo behind him. Just as his parents lunged forward, they were blocked by a tall, elegant woman in sunglasses. She walked up to Leo, smiled, and introduced herself as Caleb's sister, Isabel. Leo stammered a greeting. Isabel's smile widened. She told him he was handsome and that she approved. Then she turned to his parents, her smile vanishing. She informed them that their family, unlike some, did not have a dynasty to uphold. All she cared about was her brother's happiness. And since they clearly didn't value their own son, the Jiang family would be happy to. She handed his parents a CR card, telling them it held $1 million, a reimbursement for their expenses in raising Leo. From that day on, she declared he had no connection to them. His parents' eyes lit up at the sight of the card. Even as they took it, they muttered about his ingratitude. Isabel turned back to Caleb and rolled her eyes. She told him to stop standing there and call the police. That much money was enough to put them away for extortion for a few years. Caleb, after a moment of surprise, pulled out his phone. At Caleb and Isabel's home, Leo experienced the warmth of a real family for the first time. Their parents had passed away long ago, and Isabel had raised Caleb. She valued her brother's happiness above all else. She brought Leo a plate of sliced fruit, laughing. She remarked that she never expected her brother's charitable tendencies to extend all the way into someone else's bed. Caleb blushed furiously. Leo couldn't help but laugh with her. Then Isabel's expression turned serious. She told Leo that she needed to clarify that her brother had never been so enthusiastic before. This was a first for him. Caleb's entire face turned crimson. Years later, Leo found his love for art again. With Caleb's support, the shadows of his childhood began to recede. The inspiration that had been crushed out of him returned one stormy night, flooding his mind as Caleb held him from behind, whispering in his ear that even though he was better now, he should still use him often. When he finished a graphic novel, he should remember to draw him, too. At 30, he stood on a stage, accepting an award for a graphic novel that chronicled his journey with Caleb. He had titled it Malice. A reader asked him why. He smiled and explained that the story began with a malicious thought. If he hadn't decided to use Caleb, and if Caleb hadn't offered him that dark release, the book would never have existed. It was born of malice, but it was also the deepest desire of his heart. The audience applauded. Only Caleb, standing in the back, had tears in his eyes. Only he knew the whole story. That same year, his brother's name was celebrated in scientific journals. He had become everything their parents wanted. And on the day he received the world's most prestigious physics award, he ended his own life. His note contained a single sentence. "Mom, Dad, I finally became what you wanted. Next life, I want to be myself." His mother found him. The shock caused a massive stroke, leaving her partially paralyzed. His father came to Leo, pleading with him to fulfill his filial duty. Before Leo could respond, a call came from the hospital. His mother had passed away shortly after his father left. Hearing the news, his father actually smiled. He dropped to his knees, claiming everything had been his wife's idea, that he had never wanted to be so hard on them. Leo laughed. He pulled out his phone and showed him a message from his mother, sent when he was first nominated for an award. It was a mirror image of his father's words, each blaming the other. They had spent their lives manipulating their sons, and in the end, they tried to manipulate each other. Leo laughed for a full minute, then turned and walked away without another word. The setting sun blurred his father's kneeling figure, just as his feelings for his parents had long since blurred into nothing, scattered by the wind. A jacket was draped over his shoulders. Caleb wrapped his arms around him from behind. He murmured that his readers were demanding a sequel to Malice, and asked if the great artist needed to use him for some inspiration. Leo turned to face him. Through the opening of Caleb's unbuttoned shirt, he could see the glint of a silver chain. A slow smile spread across his face. "Yes," he said. "Yes, he did."